So the Common Core state standards are a real effort to begin to make the United States ready for international standards, ready to compete internationally. It may not be a perfect document. It undoubtedly will find some parts that end up being emphasized over the next few years and some parts that don't. But please take it to heart. It's really our first attempt at working out something that can go nationally, even though it's not a national set of standards. It really is important, and it's a different kind of animal than every state doing its own thing. Now, that said, it's only supposed to be 85% of a curriculum. The states still have license to do other things that they want to do. So the state of Illinois has the power to add certain things or make a few changes, but the states have agreed upon this, and it's exciting to me to know that that's our foundation, that that's our substance. Okay, so what's the goal of the Common Core state standards? Well, it's to provide, if you look at the first 2 pages, the introduction says, greater focus, more coherence, and deeper student understanding of mathematics. How are we going to do that? Well, there are 2 sections to the standards. This isn't new for math people. You know, we know about this. You knew about process standards before. The standards for mathematical practice are very much like the process standards. They're different in some subtle ways. They're more specific. I'm not saying they say the same thing. I don't mean it that way. But they take sort of the place of the process standards that NCTM had. And in fact, they're to permeate everything else you do. This isn't new news, but it may be new practice. Because I think we've gotten away in this very assessment-driven curriculum to just teaching for a test. And we've kind of drifted away, at least, okay, maybe it's just in Texas, not Illinois. I'm going to give you guys credit. But there's a drifting away from really getting meaning out of things. Now, obviously, there are also the mathematical content standards as part of this. So let's talk about the 3 parts of my title. What does focus mean in this case? Well, first of all, it means that you have patterns of content that are emphasized and some that are de-emphasized. And it means, quite frankly, that all of the old habits of how you've taught, what you've taught, and when you've taught it, don't just go by those. Pay attention to these standards. Look at what's in 3rd grade and what's in 4th grade. And some of you in 3rd grade are probably going, oh yeah, my God, I already have looked at that. That's a disaster. Yeah, you're going to do fractions in 3rd grade. And it's, you know, I get that that's hard. But look at those things because they're different. They're different sometimes in subtle ways. Also keep in mind that fewer standards are no substitute for focus standards. It would be possible to write a set of standards that had 2 statements in it. But they'd be so general you'd never be able to assess them or know whether kids ever attained them or not. In this set of standards, I frankly think that there are some things that are too specific. Later on over a drink I can tell you where those things got put in, but you know, okay. But there is clarity and specificity, and so sometimes you get more standards. But the effort has been here to be clear and specific about what's happening, what students are to know and what they are to do. But not to the point, and this is tough, not to the point of pulverizing it. So the goal is that they know how to use function notation. And that's it. That's all you ask in that problem. No, the idea here is that the things that are specific and particular will get put together in a way that's meaningful for deeper understanding. You won't stop with just the skills and the processes. Okay, so what does coherence mean? Well, one of the things it means is that there are connections within a single grade. Now, those of you who've taught elementary school, I know you do this. I mean, this is preaching to the choir. It's almost silly to say. But let me give you an example from the Common Core state standards. In 3rd grade, measurement and data, Standard 7 sets an expectation that students will use area models to represent multiplication. The writers of this document took great care that the area models that were going to be discussed for multiplication were also emphasized at grade 3. So the kids weren't doing area models about something they didn't know. They knew about rectangles. They had been talking about rectangles. So within a grade, there was an effort to make a lot of coherence across that grade so things fit together. Do they all? No, of course not. Sometimes you just have to teach things. But for the most part, if you look across within a grade, you'll find that there is an effort at least to make it cohere. Pay attention to that when you're teaching within a grade level. But then in addition, something that was sort of unique with this, over the last probably 8 years, there has been a lot of research going on, or what are called learning progressions. Jerry Confrey, who's been around a lot, I think now is in North Carolina. Doug Clements is somebody else who has done a lot of work with learning progressions. Progressions are packages of knowledge that research has shown work best for developing student understanding if they're done in a particular order. If you do ratio and proportion a certain way, kids seem to get it better. And they get the idea that a fraction is actually a number, and it's also a ratio, and it's also, all of the different things that it is. But they've figured out through research what works as a progression. Now, what this means is you have to be a little careful, because you'll see a topic in the Common Core State Standards. You know how to teach that topic because you've done it for the last 10 years or more. And you'll think that's what you go into. You'll go into your normal mode, but be careful, because you need to look very well at the grades that lead up to it and the grades that come after it. And you need to pay attention to what that progression is. You probably don't have to teach the whole blessed thing that year. Probably some of it was done before. Build on that. The kids will tell you they never had it. Of course they will. They always tell us that, right? Even if you taught them the year before, they tell you, well, we never did that. But you've got to try to look back and remind them that, yes, they did, and then move on. And don't feel like you have to finish a topic, because sometimes it actually gets built on later on. Also, if there's something in there that just seems like it's gratuitous and it's not really developed very well, don't skip it. It's probably the stepping stone for the next grade. And if you don't do that, then they're missing something, and then they're really right when they said, no, we never did that last year. You don't want that to happen. Currently, there are two learning progressions that are available on the web. One of them is for ratios and proportional reasoning, and that is fairly well developed. It has gone through a couple of review processes. The other one is for fractions, and that is the way they put it on one website, a drafty draft. On the back page of your handout, there are some references. And the place that the place I thought was easiest to find these was the website for, oh shoot, now I've just lost it. There it is, commoncoretools.wordpress.com. That one, for me, it was the easiest to navigate. You will also find these available through Bill McCullum's work at the University of Arizona, the IME site that's on there. And eventually it will connect from the Illustrative Mathematics project site that's on there, although I couldn't find a way to do it when I tried directly through that site. If I go to IME, I could find it. Also on this site is a wonderful essay by Al Coco from EDC out in Massachusetts on choosing curriculum aligned to the standards. One word of caution. If you haven't noticed, everything is aligned to the Common Core State Standards. Things came out in August of 2010 that were aligned to the Common Core State Standards. I find that sort of miraculous, since it took a whole year to write them. And, everything is going to be aligned, and there are ways that you can make it sound like they really are. But Al's work here is worth reading. And there is also a curriculum analysis tool and video of the standards. I haven't analyzed those a lot, but I would urge you to take a look at that website. It's really pretty good. The Illustrative Mathematics project, okay, I'm working with that one too with Bill, because he was one of the main authors. I've been working with Bill for a long time now. And when we first started, I thought it was the Illustrative Mathematics project, and I actually prefer that name, because I thought what we were doing was putting up problems that would illustrate what we meant by the standards, and that is in fact what the basis of the project is. But now it's become known as the Illustrative Mathematics Project, and I kind of chuckle at the name. That pronunciation seems to me it's a little grandiose for what's not up there yet, but will be evidently soon.